Hello and welcome, Amuday Pratap Singh. You're joining us on a brand new edition of the NewsX Business World panels on the Indian economy, decoding the Indian economy, the impact of the lockdown and the pandemic. How much really have the government and RBI stimulus measures managed to aid Indian entrepreneurs in the corporate sector? What more is needed? And how far are we really from the recovery? Yes, that will be, of course, some of the focus points on the broadcast today. As always, we have a Power Pack panel joining us live. Today, we have Karthik Raichura, co-founder and CEO, websites.co.in, joining us live. We also have Kunal Kisle, CEO and co-founder, Integration Wizard Solution, live with us. Shekhar Rotoni, founder and CEO, Prescript, is also joining us live on the broadcast. Avinash Ghotkindi, MD and CEO of Zaggle, is with us live. And Ved Krishna, Vice Chairman, Yash Pakka Limited, will be joining us shortly. As always, we're happy to be joined by Dr. Anurag Patra, Chairman and Editor-in-Chief, Business World and Exchange for Media Group. Welcome, all of you, and thank you so much for being with us today. Karthik, let me begin with you first. For some of the trends, of course, that you have picked up in this lockdown, has it been, of course, a big boost for companies that are heavy on digital already, on their side, e-commerce, e-learning and all of that. But also for you, Karthik, what have been some of the proactive decisions that you took to circumvent some of the major impacts of the lockdown and pandemic?
Okay, so a little bit about introduction about what we do. So we have websites.co.in. We help small micro business owners get their businesses online in 15 minutes through our app. And largely, most of our business comes from abroad, right? So we have customers from all over the world. We have adoption in 200 countries, and the largest amount of customers come from developed nations. So, even before the pandemic hit India, we already had started getting signals from, US and, Europe, that there is, significant, so because the lockdown was, implemented over there a lot earlier than India, we were seeing a lot of people churn out, right? We were seeing a lot of people panicking. We were seeing a lot of people saying that right now they don't need a website for their business because they don't really have a visibility of whether, they would, because, the segment is very sensitive, like micro business owner is, very sensitive to the kind of impact. And because it was a lockdown, a lot of businesses, were not able to do anything, right? They were not, so even e-commerce businesses, which are, in the small, micro business segment, these guys were not able to operate because of the lockdown. So what they were doing was they're actually canceling subscriptions. They were saying that, okay, when the when the lockdown is opened up, so even the $30 that they had to pay us, right, in a monthly subscription format, they were churning out. And we were, on a very high growth path, right, in terms of the kind of adoption, in terms of the kind of paying customers that we are getting. But in February, we really saw a slowdown. We saw a lot of people churning out. And so for our businesses, what we did was that we knew that the economy will come back on track, right? But if these customers churn out, then getting these customers back on a subscription model would be a challenge for us. What we did was we gave out freebies, right? We gave out free extension of monthly subscriptions with a coupon code called Fight Corona. So anyone who applied that coupon code who was already a paying customer would get an extension until the lockdown is over, right? And so that way we retained a lot of our customers. There still was churn because a lot of people actually shut down their businesses. So that's the harsh reality, right? While we say that, in terms of, how Corona has affected, there's a lot of boom in the digital space and things like that. We've seen a lot of businesses because we did surveys and we found out because, why the churn happened. And a lot of people who were paying customers who stopped their subscription said that we have, shut down our businesses. And when we, start a new business is when we will become your customers again. So in terms of impact, yes, one way of mitigation was that we gave away freebies, free extensions to the subscribers. But, the pandemic has really affected the small, the micro business.
And Karthik, when you look ahead to 2021, we are 23 days away from 2021.
Yes.
What is the outlook for your business? And tell us, are you optimistic about your business and the business environment? Or you feel that we're in for a long haul before things come back to a normal?
No, so I mean, I'm very optimistic for the reason that while there was a lot of churn that happened in terms of people who shut down their businesses, there is also a decent amount of people who got in a new business, and when they were getting into this new business setup, it is digital first, right? Because earlier, before the pandemic, I mean, in India as a country, if you look at it, right, a lot of things were happening only through feet of street. So like a India Mart, Just Dial, Trade India, Sulekha, without feet on street, they would not have, managed to survive. But, they actually ensured that all the feet on street were, equipped with new skills of digital. And when they went to the customers, the feedback that I have been receiving from the industry is that the customers were waiting for something of this sort to come, right? Saying that, okay, we want to digitize our businesses, right? People who have sustained their business in this pandemic, or people who are starting their business, they know that digital is the only way going forward, right? And so the outlook is very strong, right? In terms of existing businesses who have survived adopting the digital wave, and in terms of new businesses who are getting started, becoming a digital first business. So I think we're very optimistic about 2021.
Okay, let us bring in Avinash. Avinash, you're a B2B fintech company.
Yes.
In some way, you are helping companies manage their expenses digitally and make sure that build in the element of rewards, building the element of loyalty, and expense management becomes fun. So give us a sense, when the focus of CEOs, HR heads was on downsizing, how did it impact your business? Because except for a couple of industries, headcounts in most other industries came down, or at least became standstill.
Correct. So we at Zaggle took a very strong decision, and it was a decision which could have gone in either which ways, right? So the first thing that we did, Anurag, was we gave a COVID bonus to all employees to cope with the pandemic, because there was a lot of uncertainty. We gave a bonus of about 10,000 rupees for every employee who was with us, just to be able to get their internet going at home, just to be able to get enough supplies. And that really, and this we did way back in March. So this really changed the perception of our employees and the whole morale of our employees, rather. And the second thing that we did was we got all the employees together. We had a conversation, open conversation, and we discussed, would you want us to downsize, or would you be willing to take a pay cut? And you would be surprised, more than 97% said we'd rather take a pay cut than have any of our colleagues go. So we took that call. We had a pay cut for 3 months. Everybody shared the pain. But after that, we were back. And that worked remarkably well, because even when people had a pay cut, they genuinely recognized that the company and the founder, Mr. Raj, and I, as the MD, we really cared for our team. And this was not just lip service, right? So the way we saw that help our business was that the motivation that the employees were showing really translated in a massive uptake of contracts around expense management, because every business was now looking to control costs. And all those conversations which were like, hanging in the air, waiting for closure, all those started to close. And we were really surprised that, how quickly the closures were happening, and everything was happening digitally. So all signatures of contracts were happening digitally, implementations were happening digitally. And it sort of worked out very well for us from a business perspective. Of course, the pandemic has been terrible for all of us. But from a business perspective, this has been our best year ever. And we've had successive best year months in the last 5 months. So that's how we dealt with it.
Okay. I think that's an important point that you raised, Avinash, that obviously, through this difficult time, that companies have, like yourself and possibly others as well, have now decided and realized that it's also important to concentrate on emotional, mental well-being of employees, and that does translate into prowess at work as well. I think that's something that this situation has and that kind of emotion in companies where it wasn't earlier, and obviously in companies like yours where it was earlier.
Yeah, so the way we look at it in the leadership team, both Mr. Raj and I, we look at it as, our primary job is to take care of our employees and customers, right? And if we are able to take care of these two legs, everything else falls in its place automatically, because customers tell us what's good about our product, our solution, what's bad about our platform, and so we can improve, which is very important. And employees make sure that they are taking care of, all the other elements within the business, whether it's finance, whether it's HR, whether it's marketing. So that's how we look at it primarily on our end, and that's served us well.
Absolutely. And you said it was the best year you had in a while. Give us a sense of why it was your best year, and what were the factors that helped you do this superlative performance?
So, Dr. Batra, two things primarily, right? One, as I mentioned, the uptake on our platform. We built a lot of tech, a lot of capability, a lot of AI, ML, a lot of stuff that, companies typically talk of. We had it actually working on the ground on our platform. But we never had been able to get that fillip or push, because expense management didn't seem to be top of the mind of a lot of businesses and companies. The other thing that we did was that we actually increased the number of partnerships that we did. So we had a partnership with Visa, we had a partnership with NPCI, quite a few banks like DBS, ICICI, Yes Bank, who then started to offer this to their partner, either their partner banks as a platform solution to integrate with their corporate cards, or the banks were selling it to their SME customers, right? So we saw that uptake really, really go up simply because these partnerships, and every bank was now getting customers who were saying, look, I need either a borrowing or some way to control my expenses, or both. A lot of the banks, our partner banks, said, look, I'm happy to lend to you, but I want you to take this corporate card and I want you to implement this expense management solution so that you're controlling your expenses. And we also, as a bank, have some visibility of, where are you spending, right? Because it's easy to lend, but every lending institution should and wants to have some sense as to where the money is going. And through an expense management platform, you're able to achieve that.
Fair enough. So we'll come back to you, Avinash, but let us bring in Shekhar, Kunal, and Ved into the conversation. Shekhar, again, you help doctors kind of digitize their prescriptions, as your name of the company suggests. Now, the healthcare domain itself saw a shrinkage of number of people visiting hospital, number of people visiting doctors. So tell us, how are you able to pivot around your business and kind of rebuild it?
Yeah, so to be honest with you, Dr. Batra, when the pandemic started, I honestly did not think that we will survive this, given that, so our niche specifically has been doctors that, see a lot of patients, and, typically a doctor that sees anywhere between 50 to 150 patients per day were our target audience, right? And these were the doctors that were already on the platform pre-COVID. And the moment COVID hit, in the first week itself, we saw it go down to our startup days, right? Like the first month of our operation, of our app being operation, the number of prescriptions in the month of April and May combined were lesser than the first month of our operation back 6 years ago. So, we were honestly very, very worried because, there was a significant decline, more than 95% decline in in-person visit. There was no in-person visit happening. A lot of doctors were consulting with their patients, anxious patients, absolutely free of cost. And, one of the key problems that actually came to light was that, doctors are spending more time, treating a patient digitally. Like, we would say that telemedicine is actually designed to save cost and time for the patient, right? While I honestly think that's not really true, because, we launched our telemedicine platform in June, and we've seen, 4x growth month on month. But now the moment things are opening up, you're seeing, in-person visits increasing again.
I keep saying most domains, a lot of things that we do right now are out of compulsion. When we will have a choice, we'll see what will stick and what will go away. So the example you gave of, people wanting to go and consult the doctor face to face, now that they feel a little better about visiting a hospital or a doctor, possibly is going to manifest itself in a bigger way.
Yeah, think about it, Dr. Batra. If you are as a patient, right, with telemedicine, the most important part of the doctor-patient interaction, which is the examination, where the doctor examines you in person, feels you, feels your heart rhythms, feels your pulse. that entire portion of the consultation itself is missing with telemedicine, right? So doctors are dependent on their skill sets, their experience to diagnose the patient correctly. And no doctor has been taught how to use telemedicine to diagnose, right? They've not been taught in their colleges, and none of them are experienced to this. So having said that, doctors, tend to be more overly cautious. They tend to prescribe more tests just to be sure that they are right about their diagnosis, which eventually actually leads to, the only cost that you're saving with telemedicine actually is the cost of travel, right? You're spending more, you're probably spending more on the cost of investigations. You're spending more time with the doctor, which eventually means that, the doctors are expected to charge less for telemedicine. That's actually very unfair. Because typically a doctor would spend 5 minutes with you, concentrated, he would diagnose you. But now he's spending 10 minutes to 15 minutes and he's expected to take less, and which is really, really unfair, And our business is primarily dependent on the doctor, right? So if the doctor and his practice is doing well, we are doing well. So having said that, I absolutely agree with you. I think the moment things start opening up, and, to be honest, the month of October and November, we've seen, flattening in our telemedicine collections. Right, we were growing 4x in the first 3-4 months. Now it's flattening, and we are seeing a trend. I wouldn't be surprised that telemedicine would be reduced to the easy cases, like the 5 to 10% of the easy cases that doctors are very confident to treat over, telemedicine. But beyond that, we'll be back to business as usual within the next 12 months after the vaccine is out.
That people already are going back to physical clinics and hospitals for non-COVID cases.
Yes. So initially, until June, it was 10 to 15% of their original, traffic. Now we are seeing it reaching 35 to 40%. Some specialties like pediatrics, they are affected the most. You have to understand that unless and until schools don't open up, unless and until economy does not come back on track, certain specialties, specifically the likes of, pediatrics, it would take time for, for things to come back for business as usual for certain specialties like pediatric, as I mentioned.
Okay.
So,
Kunal, let me bring you in. Tell us, what have you done to pivot in your business in the last 8 months, and where do you see it headed over the next few months?
Dr. Batra, I think ours have been quite a curious case, because in the last, I would say even 6 months, not even 8 months. In the last 6 months, our installed base has actually doubled from the last 6 years. So I would probably attribute it to 2 key factors. One of them is essentially the adoption of digitization and particularly AI. So it has gone from good to have to a must-have scenario. And the other thing was right at the time of the pandemic, when the pandemic struck, to a large extent, we happened to be in a position where we could, kind of tweak our solutions to, kind of cater to the requirements that the customer had. So if you look today, some of the major mall chains that you have in India, and you would potentially, if you visited them recently, you'd potentially see a large screen displaying number of people that are inside. That's us. One of the top 4 of the 5 FMCG chains in India, to make sure that they can essentially, existing CCTV cameras to, control the pandemic, increase the face mask compliance, increase compliance as far as social distancing is concerned. They're using, our platform. So, I guess we, kind of see our traction growing, and, maybe it might not grow at the same rate, but in the coming years, what we've realized is, adoption of AI is, something that is going to be necessary if an organization is to compete and survive. So that bodes well with us.
I think video cameras and video content and surveillance, and as remote working and remote work in every sphere of our life grows, the kind of service you provide will have even more relevance as we get used to virtual ways of doing a lot of things that we used to do physically. Let us bring in Ved Krishna. Ved, tell us a bit about how you have pivoted over the last 8 months, and where do you see your business and the economy going over the next few months?
Absolutely. First of all, apologies for joining this discussion a little bit late. I was stuck in another discussion. However, so we are mainly in compostable packaging, very different from my other panelists who seem to be mostly in the digital space. So we are very much based out of food service sort of domain. So, all the these days, all the compostable products that you use in terms of if you go to a Haldiram or an airport or a checkpoint, you'll see these brown colored plates and bowls. So I'm sure most of you have tried it. So it's very directly connected to the restaurant business. So like most of you, we also face this downturn because of the sudden shift in the restaurants stopping to serve food. We were not that much in the delivery space. So, of course, our team has gotten very activated in that delivery space because that's growing significantly. What has happened also, though, is that many of the people have shifted to disposables vis-a-vis a bone china plate, for example, just for many of the customers want a disposable just to make sure that
you don't hygienic.
Yeah,
nobody's touched it, so
correct.
Want to be
Absolutely.
kind of safe about it.
Yeah. So that's the plus that has happened. The second thing is even in the offices, the same thing is happening. A lot of the offices are wanting to shift to a disposable, and of course, with the awareness rising, not wanting to go to a plastic or a styrofoam based product. So that's on the side of our food service where we are also quite present in the food bag segment, which comes from our pulp and paper domain. There again, it's been challenging, but that's been easier. With the challenges were more at our end in terms of there were a lot of COVID cases, so we had to learn how to not just because we have larger factories in place, so we had to learn how to manage local hospitals, local hotels, because the company was sealed for a while. So so the whole dynamics there. So of course that was a different.
Ved, why is it called Yash Pakka? Tell our viewers why. What is the significance of your name?
Absolutely. So we were actually called Yash Papers for over 35 years. And we eventually realized that we've shifted from a pulp and paper company to a packaging company. So we chose the name Pakka actually. It's spelled P-A-K-K-A, but it is pronounced Pakka, but basically means packaging with a soul. So the ka is soul in Egyptian, and pak comes from Pakka. So the idea is to promote more and more compostable packaging, and that's how the name comes.
Like we were talking earlier, one of course, the learnings in this time has been, to concentrate on emotional well-being, to concentrate on health of employees, and of course, people are also concentrating on their own health and wellness. Do you also believe that another, sort of realization, particularly during the lockdown days, was how much we've taken the environment for granted? Because suddenly we were hearing the birds chirping, we were hearing, of wildlife, being spotted around the country, which wasn't seen for very long. We were seeing blue skies, particularly in Delhi, which is a rarity. But do you also believe that this consciousness towards the environment will grow, and hopefully that will be another learning as well? Faith?
I truly hope so, because we are all part of this planet, and we all have to do our bit and not look to somebody else to save it. But the challenge that I find is that a lot of us think about it, but very few of us actually do anything. So actually, I've seen a reverse trend. We've seen these beautiful sights and animals walking into towns, etc., etc. But when you look at it, it's like, for me, it's personally very distressing, because everybody is with a plastic face mask. Everybody wears these PPEs. The airlines force you to take their plastic stuff and cover yourself with all of it. And the amount of even disposables that we are using is unprecedented, and the kind of plastics that are being used in food delivery. So we've literally forgotten, and today nobody can challenge it. Earlier, you could at least challenge it that, why are you doing this? Today, it's all for the human safety. So you cannot even say that, so I'm just hoping for this to pass so that excuse goes away.
Because we've seen the Prime Minister also highlight that. And certain airlines, certain hotels had stopped using plastic, single-use plastic, but now it's come back and you can't challenge it. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm hoping that, this realization that we are part of the whole ecology remains as we go forward.
But I would say that You're right, Wade. We at BW Business World have started ranking companies on their sustainability practices. The latest issue of BW Business World is about that, and we partnered with the best organization on the globe to do it with Sustain Labs Paris, which is started by an Indian. And clearly the consciousness of corporates and leaders towards sustainability and making sustainability an integral part of the strategy of the business has, in my view, it's growing. It's no longer just a tick mark that you do, but I think in a deep way, large companies that have a huge impact on the environment, whether they take water and other resources from planet Earth, have started to kind of, in some way, give back. And, I think that will only get accentuated. One of the things that the pandemic has done is to go within, to question all our assumptions, to think, to pause, to reflect. And we were forced to do it, let me say that. And we may have discovered the benefit in straight course. But let me ask all the panelists here, what are their top lockdown lessons? What has changed in them as an entrepreneur, which will hold them in good stead throughout their life? So let me start this time with Kunal. Kunal, what are your top lockdown lessons?
Sure. So I guess the most important lesson that we had was to be ready to work from home. As an organization, we were not. Right. So in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the way we used to function, we were not ready to work from home. And something unprecedented happened, and we kind of took a little while to be able to really do that. The second has actually been to keep the enthusiasm and the morale of the employees at the pre-pandemic level, and probably even a little higher. Right. So that has been a challenge with people locked down and working remotely without really interacting, a lot with each other face to face. That had been a challenge. And, we had to make amends in the way we were actually functioning, to make sure that people had, the same level of enthusiasm about the work that they had in the past. So, I mean, I've mostly our learning has been about how to make sure that your employees are functioning at their best.
Okay, Shekhar, your top lockdown lessons.
So to be honest, our biggest lesson in this lockdown was cash is king, right? As a business, I think for all of us, we need to make sure that we have capital allocated to either take advantage of, a pandemic or any such situation like this, or to ensure business continuity. And, mentioning business continuity, it's, it is very important as a company. And that is what we realized, to have a strategy or to have an SOP in place, should a pandemic, war, or any such situation come in place, we should have a way to continue business, right? And that should be, that is something on our mind. And the last learning, to be honest, is work from home is more productive than work from office, and it's far, far more productive. So I think we may probably take a long-term view on work from home, and we really see the benefits of work from home. We save a lot of money on rent, so that's that helps the cash anyway. So yeah, that's our key learning.
Wait, Krishna, your top lockdown lessons.
I would say very similar. The main thing that has come again, we've had this a number of times, but it's about the power of team. We were, of course, faced with numerous issues initially. But the whole idea that even in this time when we are in a physical business where we sell a product, physical product, but even in this time, our team didn't lose spirit, mainly because there's just such a strong bond between the organization and the team. So I would say the greatest takeaway is this, to keep that bond going and keep moving together.
Avinash, what's your top lockdown lesson?
So a couple of things. One, empathy and goodwill are your biggest currencies, right? Empathy towards your employees, towards each other, and goodwill from customers. In the medium to long term, that's what's going to really, really help you, overcome any challenges. The other thing I would say is that the human spirit is amazing. When you see all these kind of situations, and you feel that it's the end of the world, but it never is as bad as it seems. And the way our employees rallied, the way our teams rallied, adding to what Ved just mentioned, it's just amazing what a united team can actually achieve. And I think we've seen that with Pfizer, with all the vaccine companies as well. They've got together and got very close to solving this problem already. So that's amazing.
Okay, Karthik Raisura, your top lockdown lessons.
I mean, there has been so many, right? From so many, segments of, in terms of customers, are internal customers, external customers, are investors, right? So let me begin with, I completely concur with every entrepreneur here saying that, for the employees, right, work from home has been one of the most productive things as well, but also a learning curve, right? Because everyone just went into a
So Karthik, I didn't want to interrupt anyone, but I've said this on the show before, and I'd say that I'm part of 2 companies. I can say that work from home for most of them is productive, and for the company overall is productive. But for at least 20% of them, it's not, because the nature of their jobs and also the nature of their own working. And I dare to say people who were motivated before the pandemic continue to work well from home, but people who needed supervision, let me put it this way, they may need to come to office. For functions like sales, it doesn't work. If you're in manufacturing, it doesn't work. But go on.
Absolutely agree with you over there, that people who are motivated will find ways to make sure that they are contributing to the startup, and people who are not, you have to push them, whether it's work from home or from office. But I think, we actually deployed work from home a lot earlier than, it was the lockdown situation in India, because we already had signals from, abroad that, we might go into a lockdown. So I think about 2 weeks before we were in the lockdown, we had already started. We had already given our employees, a work from home opportunity, and we were trying to experiment how things will work if we enter into a lockdown.
Karthik, if you had a choice to have even COVID goes away, let's hope, pray, in 1 month or even earlier, would you then still adopt work from home in the way you have done now, or would you go back to office?
No, we would actually, for our tech teams, I think, they are the most productive when they're working from home, actually, because they meet the deadlines, right? They ensure that, so there is a, huddle that happens in the morning. Everyone knows, what they're supposed to do. And, the next morning, again, there's a huddle, and people are, when they're in the office, they have an excuse saying that, okay, this happened, that happened, But when they're working from home, they don't have any excuses. They actually find time to ensure they expand their work, timings, and they ensure that the work is complete. I think that's become very productive for us. One is work from home. Second, the topmost learning is to automate a lot of things, right? Like in terms of support, during the pandemic, things were so crazy, and the sentiment completely was very bad, right? So for a person who would put in a support request saying that this is not helping or how to do this, right? He would be okay if, the answer came a little later in the day, right? After a few hours. But during the pandemic, everyone was so stressed out. Our ratings on the Play Store started going down dramatically because people were pissed, right? They were giving, and the whole frustration is on to a support executive, right? So we realized that we have to automate a lot of things. So we came up with video guides, we came up with automate.
The chatbot revolution became mainstream. I want to tell you, in some of the conferences in Europe and US, even last year, your co-panelist was a bot.
Wow.
And that's, I'm talking, and I'm not making it up, okay? It may sound like a sci-fi movie, and you know that singularity is likely to happen by 2034. It may happen even well before that. So machines have started to, in some way, emulate human beings. But it's difficult. Human beings are so unpredictable that you can never emulate them fully. But let us ask you, one, when do you see the economy coming back in full bloom? Let me start with Shekhar this time. Shekhar, you already talked about the telemedicine numbers going down, physical visits growing. So that in some way also shows the confidence in the, fact that we can deal with the healthcare issue, right? And, for the first time in the last 2 days, the numbers in Delhi are the lowest, right? So clearly there may be a waning down of the virus. It's too early to say that, but looks like. So when do you see the economy coming back in full bloom? 6 months, 12 months, or 18 months?
And why?
Qualify.
Well, as I said, my opinions are reflective of what doctors are telling me, and after talking to a lot of these senior doctors and understanding their understanding their practice and seeing the trend. To be honest with you, I may sound pessimistic, but I look at 18 months as the time where we are looking back to coming back to the normal level. Two reasons. One is that, though vaccines are out, right, will be out maybe in a month or maybe in a couple of months. Distribution and further, the safety studies. A lot of doctors want to see, want to make sure that the vaccines are safe before they themselves administer it, right? And specifically the senior ones. So, having said that, and from the sentiments that I get from doctors, I look at 18 months, to be honest, nothing before that. And I hope it is earlier, and I hope I'm wrong.
We hope too. And in my view, it will be faster. I think in the next 6 to 12 months, of course, there is a big variable of when the COVID goes away and the distribution and efficacy of the vaccine. And I'm not a doctor, so I'm not competent to, but from whatever I read and I talk to people who are experts, I think we'll have to wait and see. And also, the government is capable of spending and that can spur the economy. But I think till the government is sure of the vaccine, the government doesn't want to go into a mode where it spurs certain sectors. So clearly, the government is very calibrated in its thinking about it and very, dynamic in its response. Rohit Krishna, when do you see the economy coming back from the number of, units being consumed in terms of the various sectors that you service? What is the sense you get?
It's a tough question. Again, I think Shekhar is definitely better placed, like he said, 18 months. So I'm actually based in US, and here it's actually really, like, in India at least, we are still mixing around a little bit. Here it's literally like you see somebody on the street and he'll immediately move, at least 6 feet away. So I find that to be like, it's and there is so much fear in everybody, at least in the part of the US where I am. So it's very difficult for one to say when it will come back. But I would stay with the view that it's not going to be as soon as we think in terms of you asked pre-COVID. So that, of course, and some of the industries will do better than the others, etc., etc. But overall, I would also say that it's at least longer term than shorter. I would say people have inherent fear now, and that to go away takes time.
Kunal?
Well, I think that it will be different for different segments, and a lot of industry verticals, be around logistics, might recover faster, maybe 6 months time period. But there are a lot related to manufacturing, verticals like automotive manufacturing that might take a bit longer to recover. So if you look at the overall adoption that technology that's concerned to us is concerned, right? So there are I see a lot of uptake happening in retail, in logistics. But in things like automotive manufacturing and a few other segments, it might be, I'm looking at around 24 months for the sentiments to get better.
Okay. Karthik Raichura.
So today, quite interesting, because we do this show on a daily basis on NewsX, and Dr. Batra, of course, and I always raise this question. It's quite interesting, Dr. Batra, that we get varied response. Today, a very pessimistic, or might I say realist panel that we have. Sometimes we have optimistic panelists who say 3 months, but today we're hearing a longer duration. Karthik,
I actually would agree with Dr. Anurag Batra, right? That we are actually, even from the US perspective, right? What's happened largely, and I talk only from the micro business owner's perspective, which dominates like 90% of the global. So it is 90% of the world's businesses are micro, right? And from that particular segment, what I realized that whichever businesses had to shut down have shut down. Whichever businesses had to start, these guys have started. And it might take about 6 months time for the businesses who have survived to really start making most of after pivot or after they're applying their learnings to maximize their profits. Also, the new businesses, it might take about say 3 to 6 months to really establish themselves and get the monies in, right? So I think from a perspective of the micro business fraternity, yes, I think 2 quarters is what at max, right?
Avinash?
So yeah, I have a contrarian view. I think we'll recover much faster than some of our panelists thought, and I'll support that with logic. I think one is that in 6 to 9 months you'll see that a lot of the fear will reduce post the vaccination comes in, and even if you have not got vaccinated, a lot of people today are afraid, for example, to step out not because of their own health, but they're worried for their parents, their in-laws, others in the community that are at risk. And once they get vaccinated, and I really believe that I'm talking primarily from the Indian perspective here, I believe our innovative spirit will help us figure out how to make sure that we are able to rapidly manufacture the vaccine, which is already happening, and also distribute it. And I think the government has a very pivotal role here. And I expect and I believe that this government will be able to act very fast. There may be some mistakes that happen along the way. It is human, but I expect this government to really act fast once the vaccine is available to distribute it rapidly. And that's going to really, really change the sentiment in India in the next 6 to 9 months. So next Diwali, I think, is going to be much, much more different than 2020 Diwali. 2021 Diwali is going to be bumper Diwali.
Okay. Well, let's. We still have a few minutes to go, so let's quickly now get our panel's views on the government stimulus measures. As I said earlier, the government and the RBI have also made a series of announcements this year. We perhaps will hear once again from them early next year as well. There is also the budget, which is coming up in February. So let's just get all our panelists' opinion. Avinash, let's begin with you once again on how much the government's measures have helped your sector. What else you still expect from the government?
I think the government's measures helped. I think it could have helped a lot more if the banks had been more proactive in dispersing the loans to the SMEs. I think somewhere the banks are also not at fault. They have a lacuna when it comes to technology. And because of that, they are not able to really use AI, analytics, and other possible technologies which can really, really help them make smart decisions. And I think fintechs genuinely have a very large role to play in helping banks figure out whom to lend and how to lend. I think we are launching our founders card. It's a card which is a corporate credit card, business credit card, early next quarter in partnership with IndusInd Bank and Visa. And we believe that's going to be a game changer in terms of how you're able to track those disbursements, how much is getting spent. It's obviously coupled with our expense management platform. So you have a very holistic dashboard view as to who's spending where and how you can restrict that. The other thing I believe is that there's another stimulus package which is on the anvil. And again, there, how do we drive CapEx? How do we drive project financing? I also believe government will ramp up disinvestment in the coming months of a lot of PSUs to make sure that there's more capital available to drive growth.
Ved?
So I think the initial efforts have definitely helped. They helped us with a certain amount of cash and liquidity. And now, of course, there will be continued effort needed. And I'm sure the government is thinking about various methodologies, whether it is monetary or fiscal, to try and ease the burden overall on the business and to provide more liquidity. So I think it will be a continued effort that will be needed from the government, and I'm expecting this government to be more proactive in that domain.
Karthik?
So I think that, the government has actually has been a lot more proactive than any of these and this has been unprecedented in terms of the kind of work that the government has shown during the current pandemic. So we're hearing about some 20 trillion fund that was supposed to go to the small and medium enterprises, and what's happened is a lot of money has already gone to people who have borrowed more. So if you already borrowed, then there is some sort of relief to you, and then you also allowed to borrow more money to. And that's the liquidity that these segments are getting. But in terms of micro business segment, I think there is still a lot that needs to be done, right? One thing that I really appreciate is that the word startup and the word Atmanirbhar has gone mainstream, because of the government, and a lot of people are talking about Atmanirbhar, and websites.co.in startup is actually is one, I think, personified personification of the Atmanirbhar term, right? Because we enable businesses to get online, set up their own website themselves and then grow their business, right? So in terms of not directly the kind of money that would get into your bank account, but I think a very similar, not to the scale, right? But Facebook had set up a 32 crore grant, right? And we've got a portion of that grant. That's a very small amount, but at least it's hitting our bank account, right? So I was expecting if there was something that the government would have done, to ensure that money reached the right people, sooner, that would have been a lot better. The government did also. So we were actually in the middle of our angel round. We were raising money, and because of the pandemic, a couple of angel investors backed out. But ones which were sticking around, it would have been difficult for us to get their monies in and do the compliance, right? And it would have all come to a standstill if not for the government to have incorporated things like allowing the compliance to happen virtually. So we were able to do EGA extraordinary general meetings on a virtual Zoom call, record that and submit it to the MCA and things like that. So I think that that proactiveness is something that's really appreciated in terms of the kind of measures that the government is taking to support startups as well as micro. So I think maybe the money has not directly hit the bank account, but the government is very proactive, and I think there's a lot more that we can anticipate from government to do in the
I think what has been done so far has been a little too little for SMEs, but I guess the government is waiting for the next big stimulus and waiting for things to stabilize to better assess the exact amount and kind of focus it to the right places. So I think a bigger stimulus is on its way, and probably it's also right to wait a little to better assess the situation going forward.
I just want to very quickly make a comment that in US over the last 2-3 days, we've, as I said on the show, we've seen there are food riots where you're there. In India, there have been no food riots. There have been no social unrest. The government has been able to get food to the bottom of the pyramid. It has been able to feed people. It has kept things going. So I think the government has done a very good job. And you're right, Kunal, when you say that the government doesn't want to do a lot of things right now. It doesn't want restaurants to be full. It doesn't want hotels to be full, because then it can create a healthcare risk. So the spending on infrastructure will happen mid next year. I'm saying that budget could be a mega budget in the way it brings in new things, keeping the environment, and also does big reforms. So clearly the government is doing its bit, and the Atmanirbhar call is a clarion call from the Prime Minister, which over a period of time will make sure that we are able to live up to it and build companies that have a global impact and not just for India. And sometimes we don't give the Prime Minister and the government credit for raising our consciousness. And it may not impact us immediately. I'm not taking in the next 3 months. It may be a little longer term impact, but the fact is, for the first time, by banning Chinese apps, we're creating opportunities for our own entrepreneurs. Absolutely. Now it's up to us what we make of it.
Yes.
Okay, Shekhar, last word on the government's measures so far and what you still expect from them.
Well, I agree with Dr. Batra. I think the measures that have been announced, in the past have been fantastic, and I think it should actually come to a more optimistic standpoint going forward. However, having said that, healthcare was again a very small part of that stimulus package, and I think this is probably it's going to be the never-ending standard. You can always do better. But healthcare should be, there should be more focus on healthcare is my key take. And, specifically, again, I would always want to reflect what my doctors, what sentiments my doctors would echo. There has been very little that has been done for the COVID warriors, right? And for doctors who are privately practicing. And I think, the government should do a lot more for them. And I would really urge that, there are certain, because at the end of the day, even doctors are like, they're just another enterprise, or they're just another professional, right? They also have their EMIs. They also have their day-to-day the same problems that we do. So we should look at them and we should try and support them as much, because they are eventually responsible for all our health, right? So yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
Well, that wraps up today's edition. Thank you so much to all of our panelists for joining us on the NewsX Business World special series. And thanks to Dr. Batra as always. Thanks to our viewers for watching. Goodbye for now.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.